Hey everyone, welcome to Deep Dive. So
Yeah.
today we're going to be looking at Alibaba Group's December quarter 2024 results. Going deep. And we've got the official announcement here right in front of us, straight from Alibaba Group Holding Limited, released February 20th, 2025. But, we don't just want to get bogged down with the boring numbers. We want to
Yeah.
figure out what the strategy is here, what's the story behind these numbers, and what does it all mean for, you, the listener, whether you're a tech enthusiast or thinking about maybe investing.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, these numbers really do tell a pretty compelling story
Uh-huh.
about where Alibaba's going.
All right, so let's dive right in. Overall revenue is up 8% year over year, hitting a pretty massive 38 billion US dollars, which is impressive on its own. But is this just Alibaba riding the wave of a generally pretty strong Chinese economy? Or is there something more strategic going on here?
Well, that's kind of the million-dollar question, isn't it? While the overall growth is definitely good, some segments are just absolutely exploding. Take the Cloud Intelligence Group. Their revenue jumped 13% year over year. But even more impressive, I think, is that their AI-related product revenue saw triple-digit growth for the sixth consecutive quarter.
Sixth quarter in a row. So that's
Yeah.
not them just dipping their toes in the water.
No, that's a full-on cannonball.
Yeah, exactly. So does this mean that they're going all in on AI as their core strategy now?
Well, it's definitely a major pillar of their growth strategy, This level of consistent and just explosive growth in AI, it really suggests that they're not just playing catch up. They're trying to set the pace.
Wow, dominating the AI space would be huge,
Yeah.
especially with all the competition they face. Makes you wonder how companies like Amazon and Tencent are reacting to this. But let's not forget where Alibaba kind of built its empire, e-commerce. What's going on with Taobao and Tmall?
A lot happening beneath the surface there. Customer management revenue for Taobao and Tmall increased by 9%. Now, that might not sound as exciting as triple-digit growth, but I think it represents a strategic shift.
Hold on, customer management revenue. For those of us who aren't, financial wizards,
Right.
can you break that down a bit?
Yeah, sure. So in simple terms, it basically means the revenue Alibaba generates from services that help merchants manage their businesses and connect with customers on their platforms. So think like marketing tools, data analytics, things
Yeah.
like that.
So it's not just about selling products anymore. It's about providing a whole suite of services to help these merchants succeed.
Precisely. And this revenue growth shows that they're doing something right. They're attributing this success to, a laser focus on enhancing user experience and developing new monetization strategies.
So instead of just focusing on selling more stuff, they're creating a better shopping experience and finding creative ways to add value for both customers and merchants. It's an interesting shift. Is this ecosystem approach a key differentiator for Alibaba in the long run, or just a temporary marketing tactic?
Well, it's too early to say for sure, but creating a more sophisticated and valuable ecosystem is certainly a move that could set them apart. One specific example is their Kwanzantui service.
Right. I read about that. It's designed to help merchants improve their marketing efficiency. But how does that actually work in practice?
Well, essentially, it uses data and AI to help merchants target their marketing efforts more effectively, reaching the right customers at the right time. This not only benefits the sellers by, increasing their sales, but it also improves the buyer experience by showing them more relevant products.
Okay, that's starting to make more sense. So by creating this kind of win-win situation, they're building a stronger platform that benefits everyone involved. Speaking of expanding their reach, let's talk about Alibaba's international efforts. Their International Digital Commerce Group, or ADC, saw revenue jump a massive 32% year over year. That's got to be a sign that their cross-border business is booming.
Absolutely. They're making serious inroads into new markets. However, they also significantly increased investments in this segment, which actually led to increased losses.
So it's a bit of a high-risk, high-reward scenario. They're pouring resources into expansion, but are they getting ahead of themselves? Or is this a calculated risk for future market share?
It's a strategic gamble for sure. Expanding into new markets always requires upfront investment and often involves short-term losses. But if Alibaba can secure dominant positions in these new territories, these early losses could turn into significant profits down the line.
It's like they're planting seeds now, hoping to reap a bountiful harvest in the future. And speaking of specific seeds they're planting, the report mentioned their joint venture with Shinsegae in South Korea, right?
Yes, they're teaming up to operate AliExpress Korea and Gmarket. This partnership is designed to better serve Korean consumers and boost Alibaba's competitiveness in that market.
Interesting. So they're not just going it alone, they're also forming strategic alliances to gain a foothold in key regions while making these bold moves internationally. They're also demonstrating a strong sense of financial discipline back home. They've been actively managing their balance sheet, haven't they?
They have. They divested non-core assets like their interests in SunArt and In Time. This brought in billions of dollars that can now be used to fuel strategic growth areas like AI and international expansion.
Right, they're streamlining and focusing their efforts. And let's not forget that massive $5 billion bond offering they completed in November.
Right, that allowed them to repay some offshore debt, buy back more shares, and lock in some pretty favorable terms for future borrowing.
So they're shedding non-essential parts of the business, buying back stock, and securing good rates for future funding. What message does all of this send to investors? Is it a sign of caution or confidence?
I think it points to a long-term vision. They're streamlining operations, rewarding shareholders, and ensuring they have the resources to pursue these ambitious goals. It seems to be a balance between prudence and strategic positioning for future growth.
It's like they're playing 3D chess, making moves on multiple levels to secure their future. And speaking of visionaries, the report includes some interesting comments from CEO Eddie Wu and CFO Toby Zhu.
Yes. Eddie emphasized their, user-first AI-driven strategies, while Toby highlighted their commitment to financial discipline and operational efficiency.
It's fascinating to hear those messages directly from the leadership. These aren't just corporate buzzwords. They represent the mindset driving Alibaba's decisions. What do these statements reveal about their direction?
They seem to have a deep understanding of the rapidly changing tech landscape. They recognize the power of AI, the importance of user experience, and the need for financial prudence in a volatile market.
So it sounds like they're not just chasing trends, but they're actively trying to shape the future of e-commerce and technology.
Yeah.
They're not content with just riding the wave. They want to be the ones making the waves. This is a good point to pause and reflect on what we've learned so far. We've got AI-driven growth in the cloud, innovative approaches to e-commerce, ambitious international expansion, and a laser focus on financial stability. What stands out to you as the most significant takeaway?
For me, it's how Alibaba is weaving all these threads together. It's not just about excelling in individual areas. It's about building a synergistic ecosystem where all these parts reinforce each other, and that's a powerful strategy.
Absolutely. It's not just separate initiatives. It's a carefully orchestrated symphony of strategic moves. And you know what I find really intriguing about this whole story? This is not just a business case study. It's a glimpse into how technology is reshaping our lives.
Yeah, it really is. It's not just separate initiatives. It's a carefully orchestrated symphony of strategic moves. And you know what I find really intriguing about this whole story? It's not just a business case study. It's like a glimpse into how technology is reshaping our lives.
Absolutely. Alibaba's evolution really does reflect, I think, the broader trends we're seeing in the tech world,
Yeah.
the rise of AI, the focus on user experience, this global interconnectedness, it's all happening at an incredible pace.
It's like we're living in a science fiction novel that's writing itself in real time.
But let's bring this back down to earth for a minute and think about what it all means for the average person.
Yeah, that's the crucial question. I mean, all these, technological advancements and business strategies, they ultimately impact us as consumers, investors, and citizens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So let's put on our, impact analysis hats for a minute.
Yeah.
What are the potential ripple effects of Alibaba's AI push?
Well, on the one hand, it could lead to more personalized and efficient online experiences. Imagine shopping recommendations
Yeah.
that are so tailored to your preferences that it feels like the platform is reading your mind.
Well, that's a bit creepy,
Oh,
but also kind of cool. But what about the potential downsides?
right. Well, there are always concerns about data privacy and the potential for AI to be used in ways that are discriminatory or manipulative.
That's a valid point. It's important to be aware of those risks as these technologies become more powerful. So for our listeners who might be thinking, this is all very interesting, but how does it affect me personally? What's the key takeaway?
I think the key takeaway is that the world is changing rapidly, driven by companies like Alibaba, whether you're an online shopper, a tech enthusiast, or just someone who's curious about the future. It's essential to pay attention to these trends because they're going to shape the way we live, work, and interact with the world.
It's like we're all passengers on this high-speed train of technological innovation. And Alibaba is one of the engineers in the locomotive.
And they're not just driving the train, they're constantly upgrading it, adding new features, and pushing the limits of what's possible.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another aspect of Alibaba's strategy, their financial discipline. They've been making some pretty savvy moves to strengthen their balance sheet and position themselves for future growth. Earlier, we touched on their divestment of non-core assets
Right.
and their successful bond offering. Can you kind of explain why these moves are so significant?
Sure. By selling off assets like their stakes in SunArt and InTime, they're essentially streamlining their portfolio and freeing up capital. It's like decluttering your house to make space for new furniture.
That's a great way to put it.
It's a astute way to put it.
So they're getting rid of things they don't need anymore to make room for investments that align with their core strategy.
Exactly. And the bond offering allowed them to refinance their debt at more favorable rates and buy back some of their own stock. This signals confidence in their future prospects and puts them in a strong financial position to pursue their growth ambitions.
It sounds like they're playing a strategic game of financial chess, making calculated moves to outmaneuver their opponents and secure their long-term success. But what does this mean for investors? Should they be bullish or bearish on Alibaba?
That's a complex question. And I'm not a financial advisor, so I can't offer investment advice. However, I can say that Alibaba's recent moves suggest a company that is focused on long-term value creation. They're making strategic investments, managing their finances prudently, and positioning themselves to be a leader in this rapidly evolving tech landscape.
That's a balanced perspective. It's important for investors to do their own research and carefully consider all the factors before making any decisions. But speaking of making decisions, let's talk about the people at the helm of this massive ship. We've already heard some insightful quotes from CEO Eddie Wu and CFO Toby Zhu. What kind of leadership style do they seem to embody?
From their statements and actions, they appear to be very strategic and forward-thinking. They're not afraid to make bold moves like their aggressive push into AI and international expansion, but they're also balancing that with a strong focus on financial discipline and operational efficiency.
It's like they're navigating a complex maze, carefully planning each step, while keeping an eye on the bigger picture. But leadership isn't just about strategy and numbers. It's also about vision and inspiration. Do you get a sense of that from Wu and Zhu?
Yes, definitely. They seem to have a very clear vision of where they want to take Alibaba and are passionate about using technology to make a positive impact on the world. Their, user-first AI-driven mantra reflects a commitment to innovation and customer centricity.
It's interesting how they're weaving together business goals with a broader sense of purpose. It's not just about making money. It's about leveraging technology to create value for society.
Absolutely. And that's a powerful message that can resonate with employees, customers, and investors alike.
It's like they're building a company that's not just successful, but also meaningful. Now let's zoom out a bit and consider the broader context. Alibaba is facing some pretty fierce competition, not just from domestic rivals like Tencent, but also from global giants like Amazon. How do you see this competitive landscape playing out?
Well, it's a dynamic and ever-evolving landscape. The lines between e-commerce, cloud computing, and AI are blurring, and companies are constantly innovating and vying for market share.
It's like a high-stakes game of technological chess, with each player trying to anticipate the other's moves and stay one step ahead.
Exactly, and the stakes are high. The winners in this game will shape the future of the digital economy.
That's a sobering thought. So for our listeners who might be wondering, what does this mean for me? How can we make sense of this complex and rapidly changing landscape?
I think the key is to stay informed and engaged. Pay attention to the trends, read about the companies, and think critically about the implications of these technological advancements.
It's like being a savvy traveler in a foreign country. You need to do your research and landing out. Be aware of your surroundings and be open to new experiences.
And don't be afraid to ask questions and challenge assumptions. The more you understand about the forces shaping the digital world, the better equipped you'll be to navigate it and make informed decisions.
That's great advice. So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, what's the key message you want our listeners to take away?
I'd say the key message is that the digital world is transforming at an unprecedented pace, and companies like Alibaba are at the forefront of this transformation. It's an exciting and challenging time, and it's up to each of us to engage with these changes thoughtfully and proactively.
That's a powerful message. It's not just about observing these changes from the sidelines. It's about actively participating in shaping the future. Now, before we move on to the final part of our deep dive, I want to circle back to something we touched on earlier, the ethical considerations of AI. This is a topic that's often overshadowed by the excitement and hype surrounding these technological advancements.
Yes, it's crucial to have these conversations alongside the technological ones. As AI becomes more powerful and pervasive, we need to think critically about its potential impact on society, both positive and negative.
Absolutely. It's like wielding a powerful tool It can be used for good or for ill, depending on the intentions of the user.
And that's why it's so important to have ethical frameworks and guidelines in place to ensure that AI is developed and deployed responsibly.
It's like building guardrails on a winding road. They're there to prevent accidents and keep us safe. So for our listeners who might be wondering, what can I do to ensure that AI is used ethically? What advice would you give?
I'd encourage everyone to educate themselves about the ethical implications of AI, to engage in thoughtful discussions about these issues, and to support organizations and initiatives that are working to promote responsible AI development.
Those are great suggestions. It's not just about leaving these decisions to the tech giants. It's about everyone taking ownership and contributing to a future where AI is used to benefit humanity.
Exactly. It's a collective responsibility, and we all have a role to play.
Now, with that thought-provoking note, let's transition to the final part of our deep dive, where we'll explore the implications of Alibaba's transformation for the future of e-commerce and the global tech landscape. Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in our deep dive into Alibaba's latest earnings report. We've talked about their AI-driven growth, their evolving e-commerce ecosystem, their international ambitions, and their laser focus on financial stability. But here's the million-dollar question. What does it all mean for the future?
Yeah, that's the question that everyone's trying to answer. Alibaba is clearly making some pretty bold bets about where the world is headed. Their actions suggest they believe that AI will be deeply integrated into every aspect of our lives, from shopping to finance to entertainment.
So they're not just reacting to trends, they're actively trying to shape the future.
Exactly. They're investing heavily in AI, not just to improve their existing businesses, but to create entirely new ones. Think about it. Alibaba started as an e-commerce platform, but they're rapidly becoming a major player in cloud computing, logistics, fintech, and even healthcare.
It's like they're evolving into this tech octopus, with tentacles reaching into every corner of the digital world. But what does this mean for their rivals? Can anyone keep up with this pace of innovation and expansion?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? Companies like Amazon, Tencent, and Google, they're also investing heavily in AI and other cutting-edge technologies. But Alibaba is proving to be a formidable competitor, especially in key markets like China and Southeast Asia.
It's like this high-stakes race, with each company pushing the boundaries of what's possible. But let's shift our focus for a moment and think about the implications for us, the consumers. How might Alibaba's transformation impact our daily lives?
Well, for starters, we can expect to see even more personalized and convenient online experiences, AI-powered shopping recommendations, virtual assistants that anticipate our needs, and seamless integration between online and offline shopping. Those are just a few possibilities.
It sounds like a mix of science fiction and everyday life. But while those conveniences sound appealing, what about the potential downsides? We touched on the ethical considerations of AI earlier, but are there other risks that we should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, there are always concerns about data privacy and security. As companies gather more information about our habits and preferences, there's also the potential for AI to be used in ways that perpetuate biases or create economic disparities.
It's a double-edged sword. Technology can be incredibly powerful, but it's up to us to ensure it's used responsibly and ethically.
Absolutely. We need to have open and honest conversations about the potential benefits and risks of AI and work together to create a future where technology serves humanity, not the other way around.
That's a crucial point. It's not just about passively accepting the changes that are happening. It's about actively shaping the future that we want to see. So for our listeners who might be feeling overwhelmed by all this talk of AI, globalization, and rapid technological change, what's the key takeaway?
I'd say the key takeaway is that the world is in constant flux, and the only constant is change. Companies like Alibaba are leading the charge, and it's up to us to stay informed, engaged, and adaptable.
It's like navigating a whitewater rapid.
Yeah.
You can't control the current, but you can learn to paddle skillfully and ride the waves.
And remember, you don't have to be a tech expert to understand the big picture. Pay attention to the trends, ask questions, and think critically about how these changes might impact your life.
That's great advice. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Alibaba's latest earnings report, what's the final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I'd encourage everyone to embrace the spirit of curiosity and lifelong learning. The world is changing faster than ever, and the only way to keep up is to stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop learning.
That's a perfect note to end on. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of Alibaba. We hope you gained some valuable insights and are feeling inspired to explore the ever-evolving landscape of technology and innovation.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time.